Well, you know, with Chris Stearns and Tom Mercer, you co-created this film, Benedict Arnold, A Hero Betrayed, and we just saw a clip of that. It looks fantastic.
Thanks.
But
Thank
very
you.
briefly, tell us what this story is about.
Well, it's about one of the most interesting, fascinating, and misunderstood characters in all of American history, right? Benedict Arnold, the great traitor, or as we call him, you know, really the Darth Vader of American history, perceived to be so bad, yet so good at being a field general during the American Revolution. So I think people are deeply conflicted about him.
He has a reputation of being a skilled general, but then of maybe having somewhat dubious morals or
Right.
dubious, you know, alliances or something.
As a field commander during the American Revolution, he was one of the best that the country ever produced. And then for various reasons that you learn when you watch the film, you know, clearly he returned his allegiance back to Britain. But the question we ask would, why would one of the most fervent patriots of the American Revolution, somebody who gave blood and treasure, died nearly twice defending the cause, turn his back on it?
Right, right.
Right? That's a really profound question. Why someone who would sacrifice that much suddenly determine, I can't be a part of this anymore.
Well, then that kind of makes me think of these bigger picture questions, Anthony. Why the Revolutionary War? Why this particular man? And why make a story about those things right now? You know,
it's funny, the word had come up about Arnold as potentially an anti-hero. And I think that's a really apt description. I mean, certainly his origin story would match anything you read in a Marvel comic, right? This is a man who was born into privilege, had an amazing family upbringing, came from a wealthy family in New England, but then the family ran into hard times. Three children died. The father became an alcoholic because of it. They lost their sense of place in the church. They lost their income, and he was basically sold into the apothecary trade. So what once started as privilege,
this is kind of like fallen,
right.
Fallen glory or fallen from grace.
He had a trajectory of a gentleman. He was set to go to Yale. Now suddenly he's in a trade. But what did he do with that opportunity? He basically turned himself from a bad situation into kind of like the American ideal. He built his own merchant and shipping trade business, became one of the wealthiest men in all of New England, and had this successful trade route running to the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. So in many ways, he kind of viewed America as this egalitarian place, this place where...
Right, because of his own personal life story, that he was able to do something from a very difficult situation, and sort of the sort of pull yourself up by your bootstraps idea. Right?
Self-made, right? We often hear that term made about made in the same term as Americans, right? It's great to be self-made. He really was. So he changed the trajectory of his life and then decided to take everything that he had made and put it into the American Revolution. I think he believed in the high ideals of the revolution when it started.
Right. So why is the story of Benedict Arnold so important for us right now?
Well, because I don't think much has really changed.
Right? In what way?
I think during the American Revolution, you still had this push and pull between this what I call an uneasy tension between the political apparatus and the military apparatus, and then the basic civilian population of the country. Right? I think what people forget is that America wasn't a country at the American Revolution. We were a colony. Right? We were part of the British Empire. We were essentially British subjects.
And we didn't have a Bill of Rights.
We didn't have a Bill of Rights. We didn't have a constitution, a president, right? We were an ideal. So, you know, and again, I think Arnold really believed in those ideals and really wanted to be a part of it. However, his experiences during the American Revolution started to match some of the things that we see today.
Such as, because now we're a country, right? What are some things that we're still seeing where history's repeating itself?
Well, again, I think you're still seeing this kind of political infighting, rampant self-interest, people who don't take responsibility for the actions that they have, particularly when it comes to Congress. I mean, Congress is at its lowest ebb in quite a long time, so there's a lack of trust in the political leadership of the country. All of that existed back then.
Now, clearly, you worked with a legion of historians
True.
who specialized in the Revolutionary War, 18th century culture, tribal and military histories. What did working with historians with so many incredible topical sets of expertise teach you about making a documentary?
Well, I think it really started when we partnered with James Kirby Martin, because he really wrote the definitive biography of Arnold, and even the origin story of that book is interesting because the project began where he was going to corroborate all the nefarious things about Arnold. Turns out the project, once he started doing all of the primary research, went 180.
Right. So you started off with this question about how is Arnold a terrible person?
That's right.
and then the more he found out.
And suddenly found that everything you ever learned or knew about the guy was absolutely false. Mm-hmm. So the story became a completely different story, and in many ways, highlighted all of his major contributions to the war effort. But it really started there. So having a great partner who thought like us, and then once everybody started to understand that we were going to tackle that 800-pound gorilla of history, right? Like one historian said to us when we finally started doing this, Tom Fleming, he said, wow, finally somebody has the temerity to take on this great untold story of American history. And it turns out that's what we found. We found that one story that nobody wanted to tackle because it's an uncomfortable story to tell.
Right. Well, it reminds me, and I think reminds many of the viewers, is that whoever is the one telling history is going to really impact how we reflect on major historical figures, or even who we are as a people, right? Because it has very much relevance for us today. Right. In recreating this 18th century world, I can imagine what it was like creating the stage sets and the sound stages for this. So what are some particular memories or challenges that you had in recreating this universe? Well,
sometimes I think we all wondered, like, oh my God, what exactly were we, were we chewing on here? Did we, we bite off more than we could chew? But we were fortunate in that, we had a great relationship with the reenacting community. And once people really understood what we were trying to do and how authentic we were trying to make the story, just people came out of the woodwork to help us, naval historians and the reenacting community and all these historians who contributed their time. So we had access to resources that maybe other filmmakers might not have had access to.
Such as, did you use historic buildings in the film?
We did.
Did you have to recreate structures?
Yeah, we basically shot at every historic, all of the real historic locations that were part of the real story we actually shot at. But we shot in London, where Arnold is buried in the crypt of the Battersea Church. We shot at Francis Tavern, where Washington said goodbye to his troops at the end of the war.
Incredible.
We went all the way to the city of Quebec and shot in Quebec. We recreated the Battle of Quebec, the snowstorms. We had snow machines blowing. We built halves of ships and put cannons on them on lakes in upstate New York.
That is incredible.
So we went to extraordinary lengths to try to bring authenticity to the project. And, I think we were able to pull it off.
Speaking of authenticity and of truth, I know that documentaries have become more and more popular with American audiences, especially with streaming services. And what I'm curious to know about, Anthony, is where do you see historical documentaries and just documentary in general going within the next 5 to 10 years from now? What role are they going to play for us in the future?
Well, I think our project is what we call a hybrid, right? It's a
hybrid of fiction and nonfiction.
Yeah, it's kind of we kind of call it a Ken Burns documentary on steroids, right? Because it's more than just panning and scanning on photos. It would have been pretty boring if we were just scanning on paintings from the 18th century, right? But we tried to use visual effects and more modern media to bring that particular time period to life. One of the mandates of actually making the film is that we wanted it to appeal to a modern audience, but also a younger audience. So, the production value, the visual effects, things that a modern audience are used to, we wanted to bring into this story to make it more relevant and resonant for them.
Right, for different generations of people.
Absolutely. So just imagine if you're in school, how boring your history class might have been. Just imagine having our film as a visual tool to help tell that story to young people. Probably a different outcome on how they view the
Right,
how
with
they view
live
the world.
action and live actors and sound
Action
and
adventure.
visuals and
The Arnold story is it's an epic action adventure movie. Massive ship battles and moving armies fighting in the field. I mean, it's really epic in scope. So we felt that shooting this hybrid, kind of production would just bring that more to life.
Right. Well, it sounds super exciting. I can't wait to check it out. Anthony, thank you so much for being on A House for Arts. It was such a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad to have been here. And again, thank you for the interest in this story.